Falling Off by C.A. Wynn. The earth was never flat, I said, wrapping my hands around the warm mug. That didn't keep people from believing it was, he said, a familiar smirk on his face. They thought they'd fall off the edge of the world if they went too far. This is sort of the same thing. Cool air swept in through the open door as customers came and went. The place was busy for a Tuesday morning, with the smell of coffee and fresh baked goods likely being the draw. Perhaps this was normal. I wouldn't know. I was usually at work this time of morning. It was one of those national chains, but the place had a local feel. A combination of ready-made sandwiches and personal service. It also seemed to be a place out of time, ironic in light of the conversation we were having. The waiter returned to offer more coffee. I backed away from my mug to provide him access. "Are you sure you're not twins?" he asked again. The person across from me raised an eyebrow and smiled. "We're not twins because we're triplets," he said. He sounded like me on a recording, nothing like the voice I hear in my head. The waiter nodded, a goofy laugh caught in his throat. "Right, I never thought of that." "Few people do," my older self said. "Most of us never meet a triplet in our lives. We account for only 0.1% of all births." "Cool," said the waiter, his face dulling further. "Anyway," my older self said, "my brother and I would both like the everything bagel with chive cream cheese." I didn't like bagels, much less cream cheese, but I nodded my approval anyway. When the waiter had gone, I looked across at my reflection, a slightly older version of myself. Anyone else would have trouble telling us apart. "I thought meeting yourself from a different time would create a temporal paradox and the end of the world or something," I said. "That's what I was getting at with the flat earth myth," he said. "But how can two of the same beings occupy the same space?" I asked. "We're not occupying the same space," he interrupted. "Besides, we're all constantly changing. Not even our atoms are the same from one moment to the next. You are not the same person you were 5 seconds ago, much less years from now." I took a long sip of coffee, my eyes locked with his. Is that really me, I thought? "Yes, it is," he responded, as though hearing my thoughts. They were his thoughts, after all, some years removed. "Now you're wondering if this is how you learned that the whole thing was a myth," he said, smiling. "It's all a memory to me." "It's a lot to wrap my head around," I said, my fingers closing tighter on the mug. "Took me a while too," he said. "Who planted the myth?" I asked. He curled his lip. "We're not sure. The only thing we know is that they conflated time with matter and antimatter." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "When antimatter comes into contact with its opposite, they annihilate each other, disappearing into God knows where," he said. "But you and I are not matter and antimatter. We're the same person at different times. By conflating the theory of antimatter with time travel, they gave the myth legs." "You keep saying we," I said. "Who else is involved?" "Unless you know more about quantum mechanics than I do," he said, "we'll have to work with people who discover time travel." "Work with?" I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper as the waiter approached with our order. My older self looked up. "Did we mention we were allergic to peanuts?" he asked. The waiter's eyes grew large. He backed away as though he were carrying a dish of deadly bacteria. With a wary nod, he turned and made his way to the kitchen. I was still leaning forward. "We're not allergic to peanuts," I whispered. My older self smiled. "I know that. The bagels weren't very good anyway." When we left the cafe, I found the morning chill had lingered. My older self seemed immune to the cold. "What about your friends, these people who know something about quantum mechanics?" I asked. "I wouldn't call them friends," he said. "What would you call them?" I asked. He screwed up his face in that way I do when I'm trying to be tactful. "It's Complicated. I laughed. More complicated than time travel? Maybe partners in crime would be more accurate anyway, he said. Crime? I asked. Well, there aren't any laws against time travel yet, he said. That's what the myth is for. We survived the many stares twins probably get and finally arrived at my apartment. I waited for my older self to open it. He looked at me with that derisive grin. You don't think we live in this crappy apartment forever, do you? I hadn't thought of that. I pulled out my keys and unlocked the door, letting him in ahead of me. It's not so crappy, I said as I tossed my keys on the table. He looked around. Yeah, not the worst place you end up living. I didn't like the sound of that. Removing my jacket, I slid into one of the chairs circling the table. My older self sat across from me and removed something from his jacket pocket. He placed the small device on the table between us. I reached for the object and turned it slowly on the table. It's cold, I said. He took the device from me and held it up. As I said, I don't understand all of it. He gave the device a small shake. I'll tell you what I know. With this thing, I can bounce from here back to my time. Which is 4 years from now, I asked. Close to it, he said. Can you go anywhere else? I asked. Yes, I think so. The corners of his eyes crinkled. You do know that time travel is dangerous, right? You know what I know, I said. Exactly, he said, placing the device on the table. We know it's dangerous. It's also powerful. What if you could go back in time and make all the right investments? That's the obvious stuff, I said, waving my hand. Right, but everyone who knew about the technology would want to do it, he said. That would throw the economy into turmoil. So the conspiracy, if it's real, serves a purpose, I said. True, but it also allows a select few to benefit from it, he said. Isn't that the way things work without time travel? I asked. He laughed exactly the way I do. That still doesn't explain why you came back to my time, I said. He nodded his head slowly. Here again, I'm not sure how much I should reveal. Well, you have to tell me something other than who I will meet to get involved, I said. That's the thing. You've already met them, he said. I tried to think of who he might mean. I worked at a tech startup with a lot of smart people. I also hung out with some of my college buddies. It could have been several people. Do you remember Almana? He asked. You know I had a crush on her, I said. Yes, we did, didn't we? Well, she's the person who discovers how to travel through time, he said. I pointed to the device. Almana made this? Somebody else made it. Almana just developed the theory behind it, he said. Just? I asked. Okay, it's impressive, he said. When will I see her again? I asked. She was sitting in the coffee shop less than an hour ago, he said. You didn't notice her. I think I would have noticed a woman I once crushed on, I said. Not if she was 30 years older, he said. I didn't hide my incredulity. He pointed at my face. You see, that's why I came back. We decided that you would never believe Almana if she told you who she was. I didn't know Almana very well. We'd shared a few classes in college. I got a technical degree, but she was always better at higher mathematics. My older self glanced at a small light emanating from his left wrist. I leaned forward to get a closer look. He lifted his arm so I could see. It's from Almana's time, he said. Remember how people used to wear watches before phones did everything for us? Well, we go backward a little. It's a hologram emitted from a chip implanted in the wrist. Ties into other tech. He lifted the hologram toward me. It's nearly 11:30. He pointed behind himself. Almana will knock on that door in less than a minute. I rose and walked to the door. Before I could grab the handle, I heard a gentle knock. I opened the door to find an older woman standing in the hall. She did not attempt to disguise herself. Her bright blue eyes were unchanged despite having several more years on her face. "Almana?" I asked. "Right on time," she said. I stepped aside and she entered with a cautious glance behind. When I closed the door, Almana blew out a long breath. My older self stood to meet her. He took her hand gently and guided her to a seat. "You two know each other well?" I asked. "It's not a May-December thing, if that's what you're thinking," he said. "December?" Almana asked. He shrugged. "August?" Almana looked at me. "I'm sorry. I know this is a shock." "I'm kind of getting used to it," I lied. She smiled. It was the smile I had adored when we were in college. I wondered at that moment why I had never told her that before. Thinking back led us into an awkward silence. My older self cleared his throat. "Anyway, Almana and I need your help." "We want to stop something from happening," Almana said. "The invention of time travel?" I asked. Almana slowly shook her head. "We actually want that to happen. We just don't want it to happen the way it did or does." "We need to control its discovery so we limit the damage it does," my older self said. "But you can't control the damage," I said. "What do you mean by that?" Almana asked. "You have no way of knowing how people will react to it," I said. "We have history. We know how things played out," she said. "Sure, but as soon as you change a variable, any variable, you have to throw all that out the window," I said. My older self looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "The look on your face tells me this is not going how you remember it," I said. He bobbed his head from side to side the way I do when I'm trying to think of a response. "Maybe I've forgotten some of the details," he said. "Let's just say you have," I conceded. "And let's assume we can change this discovery. Then what? You've changed history. Nothing you remember now will apply." "He has a point," Almana said. "But we know what happens," he started. "Only if things follow the exact same path," I interrupted. "But you already explained how that can never happen. Remember? If an atom is constantly changing, then so is everything else." He looked to Almana. "But we have to avoid—" "You might avoid what you saw happen," I said. "But you can't predict what will happen as a result. There are no solutions, only trade-offs." My two visitors exchanged glances. "To be honest," I continued, "I can't understand how you haven't thought of these things yourselves. The only thing I figure is that Tom here still has the hots for you. Don't get me wrong, I don't blame him." Almana placed her hand on his arm. "He's right. Change is the constant. It's how I developed the theory." My older self shook his head. "We had it all worked out. I remember agreeing to help." "This is why I created Plan B," she said. It was my turn to be surprised. "Plan B?" I asked. "You're still at Quantinium, right?" my older self asked. "Why wouldn't I be?" I asked. "You just proved that the past can change," Almana said. "If you still work there, we can proceed as planned." I searched her eyes. "I won't do anything for you." My older self rose. "You won't need to. I can pass as you." I looked from him to Almana and back, waiting for the punchline. "This is a joke, right?" "Dead serious," he said. He held Almana's gaze as she reached into her pocket. She produced a small device. It looked innocuous enough, but she wielded it like a weapon, which it was. My older self turned to me. "This won't hurt, I promise." The room went dark before I could respond. When I came to, I was lying on the couch, my head throbbing. Almana sat across from me. On her face was a maternal look, as if she were tending a sick child. I sat up slowly, my hands on my temples. "What was that?" "It was Plan B," she said. "Sorry, it's not pleasant." "Don't tell him that," I muttered. "I lied to him, told him it wouldn't hurt," she said. He didn't remember? I asked. Her face took on a quizzical look. No, he didn't. Well, I'm sure it's not the only lie you've told him, I said. Almana gave me a hard look. You don't know me at all. You traveled back in time to force me to do something. When I wouldn't, you shot me with some knockout weapon. What else is there to know? I asked. I'm here to make sure the wrong people don't develop the technology, she said. From where I'm sitting, you are the wrong people, I said. Her eyes narrowed. I really thought you would understand. The only way you keep that technology out of the wrong hands is to destroy it completely, I said. You wouldn't trust me with it? She asked. I tried to remain calm. I wouldn't trust myself with it. Technology like that is dangerous, no matter who has it. And the potential power? She said. The power is the problem, I blurted. It will be abused. She pouted. You and I had this conversation once. It was later, much later. I winced. Let me guess, it was after you used the technology for yourself. No, it was when the military got hold of it, she said. We were sitting in our living room. That's when we discussed our return. Our living room? I asked, my face flushing with what that implied. The Tom you met today is from my past, of course, she said. We met at Quantinium. You were still an exotic matter technician. I was a consultant from Google Quantum AI. That's when I first learned about how you felt. The relationship I had once wanted suddenly seemed complicated. We were young when I had those feelings. Are you saying you no longer feel that way? She asked. Maybe I was naive. We all make mistakes, I said. She clicked her tongue as she shook her head. Perhaps if you knew everything, you wouldn't say that. In my time, we have 3 grown children. They are all beautiful, intelligent, and caring people that we love. Does knowing that change your mind about me? I frowned. It was a future I might once have wanted. Now I wasn't so sure. What makes you think you can stop the military from getting the technology now? I finally asked. Before she could answer, the door opened. My older self entered. He was smiling. What did you do? I asked. Planted a virus, he said. Seriously? I said. What if I find it and disable it? Then the military gets time travel, Almana said, and you and I never meet again, if we live at all. My older self offered a half smile. There aren't many good options, are there? Is that why you're playing along? I asked. I've met her husband. He was quite convincing, he said. Why didn't you send him back instead? I asked. We needed a version of you that would pass, Almana said. You go prematurely gray. It makes you look distinguished, but it wouldn't work here. I studied the two of them. What about building limitations into the technology? I asked. Meaning? Almana asked. I don't know, some kind of ethical governor, like Bitcoin's original design, something to limit the damage. Few of the Bitcoin knockoffs kept those limits, my older self said. Right, Almana added. We could build safeguards into our devices, but others could apply the theory without them. So that answers the question, doesn't it? I asked. Almana lowered her eyes. For a long moment she stared at the floor, her lips moving silently. Then she looked at my older self. Why didn't you tell me about this? About what? He asked. The resistance, she said. He looked at me. I didn't resist. Not then and not now. Did you order bagels that morning? I asked. In the coffee shop. I thought it was odd. What's so odd about that? He asked. I don't like bagels, I said. He frowned. How is that possible? I've eaten bagels since college. I looked at Almana. I tried them in college. There was that bakery just off campus. Might have been the first place I saw you. Never bought them again. I love bagels, my older self insisted. As the words left his mouth, Almana drew the small device from her pocket and pointed it at him. He collapsed without a sound. "None of your future versions warned me about this," she said quietly, sadness softening her face. "I need you to do me a favor. Convince me, the younger me, to abandon the theory." "How can I do that?" I asked. "You've already developed it." She nodded. "In my timeline, it might be too late. Don't let it happen in yours." She removed the time travel device from her pocket. With it, she opened a shimmering window of light. I helped her lift my older self and slide him into the open portal. He disappeared without even a whisper. She paused on the threshold to kiss me lightly on my cheek before passing through behind him. The portal collapsed into a single bright point, then vanished. I stood in the silence of my apartment, her gentle kiss still warm on my skin. For the first time, I understood what my older self had meant. We really weren't the same person anymore, and maybe that was the only thing that could save us. The next day, I looked up Google Quantum AI. When the main number connected me to Almana Janaitate's voicemail, I took a steadying breath. "Almana," I said, trying to sound casual, "I don't know if you remember me. This is Thom Lockwood. We shared a few classes at Caltech." End of Falling Off by C.A. Wynn.